Three, two, one.
Yes, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everyone, to Everything is Attitude. We have a number of special guests. We thought it was going to be Reese and Kira, and we have Piper too, right?
Piper the puppy.
Welcome to the Thanksgiving edition of Everything is Attitude. We are happy to have a number of guests on here. I'll introduce Kira. You want to introduce yourself? Me? This is Kira. Say hi, wave.
Hello.
And she is my daughter, my youngest child. How old are you now?
10.
10. So she is here with us, and we have, of course, Rosemary. I'll let you do your introductions.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Everything is Attitude. Hi to Al, my co-host, and hi, Kira. Say hi to me and to everybody out there. And we have another very special treat. Kira is a special treat, and we also have my daughter Samantha Jane. Say hi, Samantha. And we have my darling boy Reese Astor. Can you say hi, darling?
Hi.
You're not going to be shy now, are you? So today we're going to, everything is attitude, and in the States, sort of this time of year, around this time of year, we have everybody's hopefully trying to be very positive, and people are recognizing. Some people are celebrating, and some people are actually recognizing. Reese, can you not talk, darling, until Mosey's finished?
I'm gonna help you, okay?
And then you can talk in a minute, okay? So we're at this point in the year. It is Thanksgiving in America, where people I don't know quite what you celebrate or what you're enjoying, but it's the time of year every single year when people get together and families get together, especially. And as Reese told me the other day, and everybody who gets together and celebrates this time, celebrating family and friends, everybody has a feast, right, Reese? Everybody has a feast. So we just thought that, we're going to take a really very positive attitude towards this. I personally did not celebrate Thanksgiving yesterday. I was by myself, but I know, Al, you celebrated Thanksgiving, and I know that Samantha and Reese celebrated Thanksgiving with friends. So, Al, why don't you and Kira, can you tell us, Kira, who you celebrated your Thanksgiving with?
Who's here?
Was it your family? Did you celebrate with your family? Kira?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes? And did you have a lot of fun?
Yeah.
Did you? And did you all sit around the table and say what you were thankful for?
Did we? We did at the beginning, a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. And Samantha and Reese, can you tell us about your Thanksgiving Day yesterday?
We have shy kids today, right?
We went to some really good friends' house, and nobody there was American, so we did our non-American Thanksgiving.
You were in New York, right?
In New York, and we went to a French-English family, and we're Australian English, so
and American, Reese is
and all American as well. And so that's what we did. So we did not have turkey. We never do.
You didn't have turkey on Thanksgiving? Oh my goodness, Reese, what did you have to eat on Thanksgiving?
Salmon and rice.
What?
Salmon and rice.
Oh, right. What was it he said?
Salmon and rice.
So salmon.
Poached salmon.
Ooh.
He had rice. We had mashed potatoes and carrots and Brussels sprouts and all that good stuff.
Yummy, yummy. And Kira, what did you have for Thanksgiving dinner?
You remember what we ate? We had 2 turkeys, right?
Yeah.
2 turkeys?
Right?
Yeah.
So
2 turkeys?
So we could have lots of leftovers. Right?
Yeah.
What was your favorite thing we ate? We had mashed potatoes and stuffing and cranberry sauce and vegetable.
It would have to be the croissants.
Oh, the croissants.
Croissants.
We
What's
made
your favorite
croissants.
thing, Monkey? What was your favorite thing that we ate? You helped make it, probably.
Oh, I know. Was it something? What was it?
The mousse.
Chocolate mousse?
Oh, you like that too.
Oh, I know you helped your mama to make it yesterday, didn't you?
Day before.
Oh, well, sorry, the day before yesterday. So that sounds delicious. All right, Kira, if you'd like to tell everyone out there who's listening, I don't know, Al, is Reese's chin cut off or?
They're moving around a lot, but they're pretty
I've got
good.
a wiggling worm next to me.
Yeah, but they're pretty good. They keep going back into the center, so they're okay.
Okay, all right. It's just the chin part. I don't, you know.
Yeah, he's good. He's good
Okay.
now.
Kira, can you tell us or tell everyone out there who's listening to us what are you thankful for? Well, on your Thanksgiving Day, what were you thankful for?
My family.
Your family. That's a very good thing to be thankful for. Was there anything else you were thankful for?
Anything else?
No, not really.
No, that was it.
Not just your family. Well, it's not just your family because your family is the most important thing, isn't it? So, Samantha, can you tell us what you were thankful for? What was your mama thankful for, Reese?
And this one.
What was your mama thankful for?
What am I thankful for?
Me.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. You're number one. What else was mama thankful for?
Clothes.
Clothes. Clothes.
You.
It's your... What?
Food. Good friends.
Friends.
Yeah.
And what about the one you're looking at?
We said Rosie already.
Oh,
did you?
we didn't hear it.
Yeah.
We didn't hear it.
She
We'd
was
like
on-
you,
she was
we'd
talking-
like, I'd like to hear you say it nice and clear. And Reese, what
The new
were
furniture.
The new furniture.
the new furniture? Lots of things to be thankful for.
Yeah.
Reese, what were you especially thankful for? What is your most favourite thing that you are thankful for?
Mama.
Your mama? Yes.
And Nina.
And what? Mosey.
Oh, thank you, my darling boy. Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say while you've got an opportunity? Kira, is there anything you'd like to say to everybody out there listening?
You want to tell anybody?
You know, there are a lot of people out there who don't have anyone to share Thanksgiving with, and they don't have anyone to share Christmas with.
Oh, you want to say it? You can say it. You can say
What,
it.
darling? Say, you could say it. What is it?
I have a YouTube channel. It's called Kira's Corner.
And you wanted to tell everybody about it, right?
Okay, then.
So everybody's got to watch Kira's Corner.
Well, you should be very thankful then that you get an opportunity to advertise your YouTube channel, right? Good for you. I think that's very innovative.
She's cross-promoting, right?
Very much so. Samantha and
Reese has
Reese-
an Instagram, actually. People could follow Reese on Instagram.
Oh, there we go. See? Stars are born right here.
an Instagram account, do you?
Reese Astle.
Reese Astle. That's ASTEL, right, darling?
RHYS.
RHYS. Yes. So, if you can, both of you, you young children here, think about all the people who don't have a family or they don't have anyone to share Thanksgiving or Christmas with because Christmas is coming up. And there are a lot of people out there who are very lonely. Do you have anything, maybe something nice that you might say to somebody who's lonely and on their own? Do you have something that they might be happy that you said something to them?
What would you say to somebody?
What would you say? Okay, say it.
Are you okay? Do you need anything?
Aww.
Oh, very nice. Are you okay?
And if all of those people who have lots of families and lots of friends to celebrate with, if they could just think about those people who are on their own and maybe share a meal or take something to their house, maybe something to eat or some flowers or something nice.
For someone who doesn't have?
Do you think that would be a good idea, Reese? Would you like to do that when Mosey comes? Shall we do that together, you and I? We'll find someone who's on their own and we'll maybe take them something nice for Christmas. Maybe something to eat. Maybe you could make them some chocolate-covered shortbreads. Yes.
He's like, yeah, let's make him something.
Well,
but
we
not
can
that,
make.
'cause I want that.
I'll make some for you as well. I'll make something for you as well. Okay. But would you like to help me to share with other people? Kira, what would you like to say to all those people who perhaps don't have anyone to share with? Is there something that you might suggest that we could all do, that you could help everybody to think about?
What do you think? What do you have a lot of, really? I think we should give some stuff. What do you think?
What?
What about all those extra toys you have?
Oh, that's a good idea.
You think you can give some of those to the kids who don't have it? Yeah.
He's saying maybe give some toys that you're not using.
That'd be nice, right?
Kids that don't have. We've talked about that before, right?
What do you think, Reese? Maybe we could, when Mosey comes for Christmas, we could maybe pack up some toys that you don't need anymore, because Santa Claus is going to be bringing you some toys, some new ones. So maybe we could find some that we could give to the boys and girls who don't have very much. What do you think?
Nobody can see. Come here.
What do you think? We could maybe give some toys away to the to boys and girls who don't have very much.
Only ones that you're not using anymore, that you don't want.
Yeah, only the ones you don't want anymore. What do you think? Think that's a good idea? Yes. Can we have a positive attitude and say yes? Definitely yes. And Kira, what about you? Can we have a positive attitude? What do you think? Do you think that's a good idea?
You have to say it so here.
Yeah. There's no good nodding. You have to speak.
She said,
Imagine as a little boy that doesn't have any toys, and you have toys that you don't even use anymore. Wouldn't that be nice to give them your old toys? Yeah.
I think Daddy should give away some of his toys too. What do you think?
I don't have any though.
I have
tons of toys. What are you talking about?
Big boy toys.
I think I might have some toys, or maybe some clothes.
Lots of things, right?
I think maybe we could make a parcel or a package to send to people who don't have very much. Do you think that would be a good thing? Yes, I think so too. And what do you think, Kira? You think that's a good idea? Well, thank you very much, both you and you, Kira, and Reese Astor, my darling boy. And thank you, Samantha. Al and I are going to continue the conversation. So we're going to say, what are we going to say? You can stay on if you'd like to, but
we're not. We're gonna go. Have you seen the wiggling over here? I'm like getting lower and lower.
It was very nice of you, Reese. Reese, it was very nice of you to come on my show with Al and I, on our show, I should say, not my show, with Al and I. Do you have anything nice to say to Al? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. And thank you for bringing Piper on too. And your mommy.
Okay.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. I love you. Reese, I love you. Bye. Hi. I love you too.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
You want to stay on while we talk? Or you want to go on? Okay. We'll see you in a minute, okay?
Bye, Kira. Thank you for coming on the show.
In a bit. Okay.
So we just thought that everybody would enjoy to see our children, in my case, my grandchild, and just hear what they had to say, because I think it's very important. Al, I think you agree, but I'll hear your thoughts in a minute. I think it's really important for us to teach our children to share, and also I think it's very important to educate our children in the fact that, I mean, I know with my grandson, he gets not everything he needs. Well, he gets everything he needs, but he doesn't get everything he wants by any means, because we indulge, but we don't indulge to that extent. But I think it's very important to teach our children that there are people out there and there are children out there who don't get at all what they need, and with some positive thinking and a positive attitude and a positive way of approaching things, I think, Thanksgiving is over. And it might be time now, because we're now heading to Christmas. And I think it's a really, really good time to think of those people who are in need. If you could, asking all of you, if you could, go into your closets for the kids to haul out the toys they don't need anymore, or they're hanging on to and they're just taking up lots of room. For you adults, men and women, to haul stuff out of your closets and pack them up and give them to the Salvation Army, which is always a good thing to do. Give them to Goodwill, or if you know a charity, or you support a particular charity, call them up. Now is the time to do it. Thanksgiving is over, before the rush of Christmas gets going, and you don't think about it anymore. Now, this is the moment. This is the time when, if you could, sort of reach out to those charities or those communities or people that don't have as much as you do and would very much appreciate some sort of donation. Al, what do you think? I mean, you've got 3 children.
Yeah, I think actually, oddly enough, Kira is the one that has trouble giving stuff away. But we're encouraging to do so, especially with the move. We've moved out to Colorado, so we had to get rid of lots of stuff to get out here. And we keep encouraging them to do that. Even coming on the show and having her, the kids don't necessarily have an easy time communicating their message or talking freely, because I think they get a little stage fright, right?
They're shy, yeah. Aren't they?
Yeah, but Kira would talk to me before and told me, how she was thankful with the family, and we had more of a conversation about it. But as far as giving things away, I've talked to you about this as well, and I think we both wish that it's not just around Christmas time and Thanksgiving, but I think if there is at least one time a year that everybody thinks outward beyond themselves and realizes, what you have as compared to others, and gives back in some way, shape, or form. I think that's the whole, that kindness piece. We need more gentleness and kindness, as Greg Eagle always says. I think that energy builds up, and a lot of people, just need to take a little step. Doesn't have to consume your life, right? It just can be a little.
No, not at all. And I think it is a good idea to, if you can manage to do it throughout the year. But Christmas especially is a time of giving and a time of remembering and a time of us becoming more aware of what we should do. My team and I always, it was something I started, I don't remember how many years ago, a lot of years ago. I would go to a local charity. I always try to pick a local charity, particularly when I was in England, because we lived in a sort of a fairly small village close to a small town, which was close to a bigger city, and we always tried to look locally to see where the homes, the hospices, the those people are always looking for money, you know, for one thing or another. I am very, very partial to children, helping children. So that's my thing. I know a lot of people do cancer donations. A lot of people do kidney donations. You'd think I'd do kidney donations, wouldn't you, seeing as I've only got one? But anyway, my kids are my thing, and they always have been. And when we were in England, my team and I, there was a children's home, a children's hospice, fairly close to where we lived, and all of the team would donate, not necessarily money, but they would donate whatever they had, toys from their children or their grandchildren, clothes from their closets, what have you. But since being in the States and going to a lot of these places, I always liked to take a family. It didn't matter how many kids, but I always took a family, and each year we took a family, and my team would donate stuff, and then I would go shopping. And selfishly, very selfishly, I would not let anybody else go shopping, because you know, if we had one year we had 3 little girls. I think the youngest was sort of 5, 7 and 9, something like that. They were beautiful children. After Christmas, I requested a photograph, because I bought them all a dress and some little black patent shoes to go with them. And I went to, I can't remember now, I think it was Marshall's. You don't have to pay a fortune for kids' clothes. There's always stuff, there are always sales going on, especially at this time of year. It's Black Friday, for goodness sake. You know, so I would go and I buy clothes. I would always buy a pair of pajamas, because when I was a kid at Christmas time, we always had a new pair of pajamas, we always had a pair of slippers, and we always had a book. And so I would buy the pajamas, the slippers, the book, taking on my own traditions, but I would also buy them clothes of some kind, or we'd ask, what is the kid interested in, what kind of, you know, they're interested in sports or music or what have you. And I also used to also buy a big tin of biscuits, cookies, you would say, and some, you know, popcorn, a big tin of popcorn and stuff that the family could have as, you know, fun sort of nibbles. Oh, I think, you know, on Christmas Day, something for the mum. And, you know, and I felt that it was important, but it was important to us because it was team. And then before Christmas, I'd have a Christmas party for my students. They'd come, we'd have food and drink, and we'd wrap the gifts and put them into, I used to get these big sacks and put them into the sacks and then get them to the families. That was something that I did every single year. And it's something I think we really, again, I'm going to say we teach our children by our example, not by what we tell them they should or shouldn't do, but by showing them what we should or shouldn't do, which is why I suggested to Reese, when I come to New York, it's going to be important, because he'll see that it's something that we can do together. And maybe, you know, whether his mom will be working or not, I'm not sure, but we'll do it as a family project. And hopefully we'll be able to either visit a family or visit a children's home or something like that. We'll hopefully be able to take those donations, because I do like to see where my donations are going to, I have to say. And I love the Salvation Army. It's my favorite place, because I've contributed to St. Jude's as well. Again, it's children. Anything to do with kids is my thing. But I know we shouldn't think once a year, but I'd rather you think once a year than never do it at all. Al, what do you have to say to that?
As you were, just before you mentioned making it a family thing, I remembered what you had told me, to whatever you're going to do to help people, to involve your kids. I think you mentioned go to a children's hospital, go to a soup kitchen, go to the things that you, and I haven't done it enough. And, you know, it's just having this conversation reminds me to do it, you know, more, and to encourage it, and to, like you said, lead by example, because you could tell them that you want to do it all the time, but if you actually bring them somewhere and they're doing it with you, there's an understanding that will just kind of stick with them for the rest of their life.
They get to see.
Yeah, exactly.
I might have told this story before, but you might remember this story. But I remember Samantha was probably around 13 or 14 years old. And I had a client of mine who had a daughter who had been born with many deficiencies, and she had been in a let's say a special hospital or a special children's home from the time of being born, because it was just impossible for my friend to take care of her. She needed lots of nursing and so on and so forth. And this particular hospital that this child was in, the child's name was Laura, and this particular hospital that Laura was in was known to take the worst of the children. That means the worst disabilities. There were kids there with no arms, with no legs. There were kids there who were suffering and in pain on a continual, not daily basis, hourly basis, minute to minute. And Samantha wanted to go with me to this hospital, and I said no, she couldn't go. And the reason I said no, she couldn't go was because I was afraid that she would be too upset, that it would be too hard for her. And she sat down, and I explained to her that, you know, I didn't want her to be you know, a party to this. I wanted to protect her. I didn't want her to know the darker side of life, the painful side of life. I felt she was too young. And she said, but I want to go. So I took her. And she surprised me greatly, because she was able to cope with it in some ways better than I was. Our children are very, you know, they're tough in many ways. They're very resilient, and they're able to accept these things. And it was the best thing I could do for her, because it, you know, when she saw these children, some of them were suffering dreadfully. But when she saw them and she was in amongst them, and the nurses were there, and the nurses were fabulous, the nurses were wonderful. There weren't too many parents when we went, but there were one or two, and they were wonderful too. And the children, and some of them were just, I can't even describe how deformed many of them were, and what painful lives, very short lives, I might tell you. But some people might think even so too long when you see children in pain and you hear them crying pitifully, and there's not a lot you can do about it. And my daughter was so wonderful with them and just accepted it. And I think when we take our children into these environments, or into environments where it's a little bit tough, I think as parents, don't try to protect your children by letting them never see the darker side. I think it's important, and it teaches our children understanding, but I think it also teaches them empathy. And when I say, you know, when you hear children crying, there's not a lot you can do. There was a little boy there. He was about 4 years old. He looked to be not more than a year, because he had trouble with his growth. But he had severe acute hearing. He was deformed in lots of ways. He had lots of issues, but he had acute hearing, which meant that even if you dropped a pin on the floor, it would sound to him like somebody was crashing cymbals in his head, you know. And so he was continually whimpering and crying, and never ever being able to be soothed because any noise. And I can remember I left my friends and I left Samantha. She was fine dealing, playing with some of the kids. And I went back into this ward where this little boy was. And I stood by his side and I held his hand. Well, he gripped my finger, and I was sort of gently stroking the palm, the back of his hand, which felt like parchment because he was terribly dehydrated. And he was crying the whole time, just sort of this awful soft whimpering sound. And I began to sing to him very, very softly and very gently. And I began to sing. And there was this moment, this incredible moment, when he stopped crying and his head sort of cocked to one side. He was blind, he couldn't see me, but his head sort of cocked to one side and he was listening. And as I sang to him, one of the nurses came into the ward, not, just, I guess, wondering what I was doing. And I was singing to this little boy. And for the length of the time that I sang to him, there was no crying, there was no whimpering. He was just laying there, just cocking his head and listening to the sound of this very soft, very gentle singing. And when I came out of them, I I wanted to stay there the rest of my life. I wanted to stay there until that little boy was, soothed. And unfortunately, sort of probably 2 or 3 minutes after I was walking up the ward, he started crying again. There's not a lot I could do about it. But when I came out of there, the nurse said to me, she said, I think that's the first time I've ever, witnessed him not crying. There's always something you can do, even if it's just a moment of magic. If you can find it in your hearts to give a moment of magic to these children who need you and who need your help. And it's not just children, it's people in hospitals, people in the burns units. If you dare to go into the burns units, there's always something you can do, even if it's just to hold somebody's hand and just say, I'm here.
Yeah, and going back to something you said earlier too, when and we've had this conversation about when people die, you don't really understand or know how to deal with people dying, and the same goes for if we bring our children into things. I mean, we had Christina on the show at one point, and I grew up with
That's
Christina.
Your sister. We remind people that's your
Yeah,
sister.
my sister, who had cancer. So we grew up in Sloan Kettering, in and out of the hospitals. So we saw a lot of kids that were very sick, kids that didn't make it. But I remember it impacted me for sure. But I also went through it without understanding of what was happening because I wasn't exposed to it prior to that. So we got exposed to it by force. So I think if we bring our kids into these environments where we could help others, they understand, and like you said, have empathy, and moving forward, they're more prepared for a lot of things, right? So I think it's an important thing to do. I mean, it's also an important thing to do from a personal growth thing, from a giving back thing, helping others on a daily basis. But like you said, if everything is really focused, like everybody's focused on giving back at Christmas, that's a wonderful thing too, because it gives you this amazing feeling when you give back. Everybody knows, whether it's holding a door for somebody or actually giving stuff away, or going somewhere like you the beautiful story you just shared, and helping people heal and feel better. Who better than kids to give that energy and help heal, but also us as adults to do it collectively with our children, or alone on our own to just go out there and put energy out and just help others. It's something that would make this world, not to be cliche, but would make the world a better place, right?
Well, I know that it's so easy to focus on the negative. I mean, I've been out and about today. It's Black Friday. Not that I did much shopping, I have to tell you, but I've been out and about, and the amount of times I've had the door of a store, I've walked into a store and I've had the door smacked in my face because somebody walked through and didn't even see me, because they're so focused on getting to whatever it was they needed to get to. The amount of times we've seen cars whizzing in and out in impatience to get here and there and so on. And it's so easy to just sort of raise your, for me, it's somebody, opens the door and walks through. They see I'm waiting and they just push right past me. I mean, my eyebrows go up to my hairline, and it's so easy for me to, want to say, hey, hey, the door, little politeness, a little acknowledgement of there you are. Not everybody closes the door in your face, but it's so very easy to think that, you know, people are sort of rushing and they want to get the bargains, and they want to, you know, they're not going to let you get it there before them and all the rest of it. It's just so easy to focus on the negative. And, you know, this show is about, everything is attitude, and it's about focusing on the positive. And truthfully, if we as a people our children are our future, that our children are the future of this world. Our children are what is going to make this world a better place or not a better place. Our children are what matter here. And as we teach our children, we also reminding ourselves. And so even teaching our children, we become better. We remind ourselves that it's important to keep that door open and say to somebody, there you go first, you go, you know, I mean, the amount of times you're in the supermarket and somebody's pushing by you with the trolley because, I mean, come on, you know, so hey, hurry up, I've only got 5 minutes. And I'm that person who will stand back and say to people, I've got lots of time, take your time, I'm happy to wait. Sometimes I don't have lots of time, but I'm still happy to wait. And when I'm talking to my grandson, and I'm talking to my grandson about being kind and being gentle, as I've talked to my daughter and I've taught them how important it is to be thinking of other people, it reminds me when I'm in the supermarket, you can't teach your grandson to be patient and be nice to people if you're not going to be. And right. So we're teaching our children, but we're also reminding ourselves, and in some cases we're teaching ourselves to be better people. Don't you agree, Al?
Absolutely. I mean, you learn from them as much as they learn from you, right? And sometimes
I think more.
Yeah, more. Yeah, and you and I see with my own kids that, you know, they're polite. They'll hold the door open like we were talking about, and I know that's because that's what we do.
You taught them.
Yeah, exactly. But also, you know, they'll do things that or say things to keep me in check sometimes. If I do, you know, lose my temper a little bit, or I get aggravated, or
I can't believe you lose your temper, Alice.
I would never. But they'll talk me down, or they'll say, "Hey, Dad, you know, not worth it," or just say, "Let's go," or so they are better than me in a lot of ways, and help me.
Yeah.
Even more than I can help them sometimes, right? Because when you do it, it becomes inherent in your children, and they don't have to think about it as much as maybe those of us who weren't either taught it or shown it in growing up. If we do it as parents, it's going to just be second nature, and that's what's going to make the world a better place, right? That's what's going to make it a more gentle and kind world if it's second nature to immediately help somebody if they fall down, or like we were talking about at the beginning, go give something or of yourself, or give away something. That's what's going. It shouldn't be.
Give your time. Work in a soup kitchen, work in a church, go to your local church and say, do you need any help with anything? I can serve food. I'm a good cook. I'll bring some, whatever it is you do, just reach out from time to time.
And most people have that time, right, Rosemary? I mean, it's not something.
It's one evening or one afternoon or something. I mean, come on, everybody can find the time if they want to find the time. If they're not, if they can't find the time, it's because they're selfishly pursuing their own, decided pursuits, and they're not thinking about anybody else except themselves, which is a shame. I mean, I was certainly not brought up in a loving environment. My mother felt it her mission in life. Where it came from, I'm really not sure, but she would pit us children against each other. She would tell one child, so and so said such and such about you to me, and then of course then your sister would look at you, whether you said that or not to your mother. She would make stuff up as she went along, so your siblings then became suspicious of you, and they came to the point where they didn't trust you because their mother had said that you were saying mean things about their back or what behind their back or what have you. And I saw, we learn by example. I saw the damage that it did to all of us as children. And I was lucky enough to be able to see that and not sort of get roped into it. And I'm not quite sure how I didn't get roped into it, because some of my, well, anyway, we won't go there, but not getting roped in and not, sort of not buying into that negativity. We're talking about everything is attitude, not buying into that negativity. I'm not quite sure how I did that. It might be because I was the odd one out, or maybe I was the odd one out because I didn't buy into it. I'm not really sure.
Mhm.
But no one showed me, no one in my family showed me how to love. Nobody showed me affection. I can remember only ever one time twice, sitting on my father's knee as I was a child, and not being particularly comfortable because I wasn't used to it. But nevertheless, I do remember those times. Once when my hamster died, and once when my brother, who was he was in Africa, and we thought he was missing for well over a year, and he came home. And I remember my father sitting me on his knee and saying to me that everybody else had gone to the pub, and my father had waited for me to come home. And I walked into the living room, and there was this big pile of army stuff, and I knew that my brother Terry was home. And I looked at this big pile of army stuff, and my father was sitting in the chair, and he reached his arms out to me, and I went straight to him. Not a natural thing to do, but at that moment in time it was a natural thing to do. And I sat on his knee, and I can remember I was crying, and I kept saying, and I was 15 or 16 years old at the time, and I kept saying to my dad that I'd prayed and prayed that he would be safe, my brother would be safe. And my father, who claimed that he didn't believe in God at all ever, because he'd seen so much terrible stuff during the war, he said to me, well, I'll tell you something, but you can't tell anybody else. So I'm not telling anybody listening to this. I'm just it was his secret. When he said don't tell anybody, he meant the family. But he said to me, I prayed too. And so I grew up in an odd family. No one taught me how to love, but that love was innate in me, and it had to come out. It just had to come out. And I feel that I was very, very fortunate to be born with this sensitivity, which is so painful, Al, as you know. When we're born with this sensitivity, it's so painful, it's so heartbreaking, because we feel a lot more than so many people do. Somebody says something disparaging to a person who isn't so sensitive, it rolls off their back. Someone says something disparaging to a person who's sensitive, and it's sort of like a dagger to the heart. So we feel more, and so many people out there suppress their sensitivity because it's too painful. And I'm saying to all of you, please don't suppress it. Attitude is everything. Don't suppress that sensitivity. Embrace that sensitivity, because the nicest people are the most sensitive. You agree?
We have a couple comments too.
Oh, good. Let's go for it then.
Margaret made a few comments. She talked about the fires in California and how it would be great to donate there because there's so much loss there. Then she talks a little bit about letting people go before herself, and she asks about the door holding consideration. Is it a regional thing? Because she grew up in Michigan, and she says, I do not see consideration towards others, or is it now generational? And I think it's not just generational. I'd love to hear what you say too. I think it's a society thing, because it's older folks as well as younger folks.
I agree.
That are so tied up now, right?
I agree. It wouldn't be the first time, just let me say. It would not be the first time that somebody's actually about to, or has sort of let the door go in my face, and I've said, excuse me. It would be really nice if you could hold that door for me. I always say it with a smile. I give them big smile, and generally speaking it works. Occasionally people walk off with a sniff and they don't say anything, but sometimes I do say, and sometimes I don't, but it depends on my mood. but I do think it's a societal thing. Can't even say the word properly. I think society doesn't demand of us anymore. I mean, I can remember when I was a kid getting on a bus. If there was a grown-up standing, you got up
Yeah.
and gave them your seat. Yes, it sounds old-fashioned, but it's called respect. Respect for our elders, respect for those who maybe not as wise as us, but nevertheless are older than us. If a man was sitting down and there was a woman standing, a man would get up and offer his seat to the lady. You could call it old-fashioned. I actually call it respect. It's being respectful.
And Rosemary, I know we started off talking about, giving and what you're thankful for and giving back, but this is also an extension of that, right? It's when you're considerate of others, when you're holding the door, when you're just letting people who are in a rush go ahead, that's all that same. Your energy is kind of putting out there to be positive, to be giving, to be understanding, to be empathetic. And that's what, Thanksgiving is really about too. And the Christmas holiday, to give back to those who need, to understand that there are people in situations that may be worse than yours, and to always give benefit of doubt, to always be, yes, respectful, to give the benefit of doubt to people and be kind and good to people, no matter what the situation you're in.
It is not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy. It's not easy to have a smile on your face all the time because everybody.
But you know what I say? You know what I say? It's easy when it's easy.
Exactly.
So there's no effort when it's, if it's easy, there's no effort. But I do think that, having a respectful attitude, respectful towards others, not because they did something great, not because they're heroes come back from the war necessarily, not because they are, they're older and deserve respect. Being respectful towards our fellow human beings that's what makes our world gel. It's what makes the energy around us become more positive, more warming. Just being respectful, and even being respectful to our children.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Rosemary. Children especially, because we talked about leading by example, right? I mean, children are just little people waiting to grow up, right?
Well, yeah, but unfortunately, those children can't defend themselves. I actually heard a woman today berating her child because the kid was bored, having to hang about for the parent. But it was just a little girl. I don't think she could have been more than 6 or 7 years old. But the tongue lashing, and not just the tongue lashing, it was the attitude behind it. We're back to attitude. The attitude behind the words, the almost venomous, impatience and irritation. And I get it. It's tiring bringing up kids, but never speak to kids like that, because they're just, they're only little after all. And you talk to them like that, and guess what's going to happen? As they get older, they'll talk back to you the same way, and they'll talk to their kids the same way, and it's a perpetual thing. And so, try and be, even to your children and your grandchildren, try if you can to be respectful, even if they're driving you crazy. Just be respectful in the way that you deal with them, even when you're punishing them. What I used to say to Samantha is, I love you very much, but I don't like you now. I don't like you at this moment in time. But I love you very much. I was always careful to say, I love you, however, no TV for a week. And I would absolutely ensure if I said no TV for a week, it's what I meant, because not only was I treating her respectfully in a decent way, but nevertheless carrying out the punishment, she had to respect me too. And if I said no TV for a week and after 2 days I gave it, where's the respect in that? She's not going to respect me. She's not going to respect anything I say to her. So I think it's very important, especially at this time of year, we start to think about the way we behave. A lot of us think about God and that God force. We're reminded that it's Christ's birthday coming up. We're reminded, people go to church much more at this time of the year. So we're reminded with everything around us, all the angel things, and people are already putting up their Christmas trees and Christmas trimmings and so on and so forth. So, it's the time of year when we're reminded. And if we can sort of grab that and use it and teach our children respect for other people and other people's viewpoints, even if they aren't the same as ours, to be respectful of them anyway, to teach our children tolerance, which means that we have to show them tolerance, tough sometimes, but we have to do it. I think it's very important at this time of the year. We're thankful. I think it's most important that I certainly feel that I am thankful that I have the opportunity to, in some small way, affect a small life. I am so thankful that my daughter is not only beautiful on the outside, she's beautiful on the inside. She has her moments, as we all do, I more than most people. But when I sit with Reese and I tell him stories and I have his absolute rapt attention, or he's asking me questions, and I have his absolute rapt attention, I am so thankful that I have this wonderful opportunity to affect a small life, and I want to be able to do it in the best way possible. I'm sure you feel the same way about your kids.
Yes, and I think I was saying to kind of sum up our recipe, I guess, for the day is as Jeff, who we had on a few weeks, that attitude of gratitude and being respectful. I think what you just said summed it up perfectly. That we're talking about doing small things on a daily basis, to be respectful and kind to others, but also being, and that stems from being thankful for what you have and the strength that you have, right? And extending out and giving to others, sharing with your children and those experiences, and how you can give to others and give back to society, to friends, to family. Correct?
And I tell you what else I'm most thankful for. I'm thankful that I've had this life of mine with all its trials and tribulations, with the buckets and buckets and oceans of tears that I've cried along the way, and the heaven sent laughter and fun that I've experienced along the way. I'm so thankful to have had this life. Hopefully it's going to go on for a while. I sort of don't want to be reading my obituary. I don't want anybody thinking that I'm about to pop me clogs, as they say in Yorkshire. But I am just thankful that I've had this opportunity in this wonderful life, albeit filled with pain and heartache and joys beyond measure. I'm just thankful that I've had this life. So I'm also thankful, Al, that we have an audience. I hope people enjoy watching this. I'm thankful for you as my co-host, of course. And
as am I, thankful that I can do this with you, and we can hope. I think we help each other a little bit, but we also help others, right?
You know what? Even if nobody else is listening, this is a fun thing for us to do, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, we're going to close. So I'd like to say again, Al, thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you too.
I'd like to remind people that we're doing our Thursday YouTube. We did our YouTube on Wednesday this week because it was Thanksgiving yesterday, but we'll be on next Thursday, 11 a.m. Standard Eastern Time. I'd like to remind people of the email. If you want to be part of the show, You don't have to be on camera. We can just get you off camera and hear your voice, or if you just want to write in and tell us your story, we can repeat the story for you. However, if you feel that you could inspire other people, or if you feel that you have an issue that you would really love some help with or a recipe for, if you can write us at info@everythingisattitude.com. You can check in on Al Pisano, al@alpisano.com, Pisano. Al@alpisano.com. If you want to know more about Al, you can reach me and my email, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. And in the meantime, until we see you again, yes, we'll be here next Friday at 6 p.m. every Friday night. Everything is Attitude. We will be here on next Thursday with our YouTube show, live chat. If you want to join in our live chat, that's a simple thing to do. And I think I've pretty much covered it all. I can't think of anything else we might want to say. And so until we see you again, Al and I, please, yes, please, have a very, very blessed day.